In the midst of a bloody war between the Northern Empire and the countries of the Southern Island is the only territory where peace still reigns, because out of nowhere they are attacked and a paranormal guy ends up being transformed into a creature named Chan, whose destiny is to be a suicidal occult sacrifice. It all starts with here what's rare, our prota. A guy with a very good life, in fact. Actually has parents that love him, he has friends, he has a girl in his class that is interested in him, and lives in one of the few places that peace still reigns on the island. He sits where nothing interesting happens, and where problems are trivial like this. After being late or not late for class one morning. After waking up late and running around like Prota arrives at the bus stop that goes to school. There he meets his friends, he talks with them and sees a very mysterious albino girl who is not wearing a student identification clamp. Whereas he is a nice guy, he helps the girl even though he had never seen her in life, dropping his armband for her to use, for her to wear, and the bus guard already knows that. He always gets these naughty things all the time, but in the end they both get on the bus without no problem. But the real problem would come. Just later when he arrive at school and everyone gets off the bus except for the albino girl, who quickly a biological bomb that generates a kind of substance that takes over the area and enters directly in the right arm of our fleet, leaving him dying of pain and confused, but not too, because since the beginning of he already suspected the cause. So Broda gets on the bus to help the girl with her wounds that for some reason bleeds green, where she apologizes for what happened and repeats nonsense things before touching him on the forehead and activates something inside him that little by little ends up transforming into some kind of. While all of this is going on, things also start to get complicated in the city where despite being a neutral zone, many warplanes from the Northern Empire begin to spread. Aware of this, the colonel sends one of his colleagues to investigate, but it is already too late because only a few seconds after the transformation of our various ships to one over the city launch numerous attacks that not only destroy part of the island but bring a series of monstrous creatures that seem to have goal of destroying everything and everyone. Meanwhile, our prota continues. Transformed and quite confused, some soldiers appear and start shooting at him, but his friend Raro, who somehow knows that the creature is him and defends him not only from the military but from two more, the same giant monsters that seem to want Prota. But at this, a giant tick starts to attack him, destroying a large part of the city, making the exchange. Don't ask me how to use his new abilities to defend himself, reflecting a laser beam that was launched against him, recovering from any wound in seconds and demonstrating an agility that you never seen before, until finally ending it once and for all. End it once and for all in the process here, which remains in this form until the girl sent by the independent travelers appears again. Her human form, presenting herself as Nakayami from the beginning. Things very clear, or he goes with her, so she can explain what he has become, or stay there where he is to end up dying in the next few days then, with the last strength he has left. Here's what he tells her: he wants to live. That the one she loves takes it as a yes, taking him with her to her ship, where he will meet up with the rest of his. Before continuing, I think it is time to explain. Now is the time to explain who these people are. People, what role they play in the war, and how they relate to war, and how they relate to everything that is going on. Good, they are all part of the crew. Dismantle a ship that is Ionis only works delivering letters for the International Post Office, but in reality they are a kind of anti-war who understand the current scenario, but make a living making money from either side. These are in there. Captain, a MILF with great character and a big heart. And with a big heart, Jumbo the cook also. MILF, a mother of two brats, and Kabako. We also have Kochiba, a fresh guy, who at first doesn't get along with our prota, but little by little he begins to accept him. We also have the pilot that Zay, an old mechanic, leaves in Sama, an old monk, and finally Ana Kayaman, orphan who was raised by everyone soon after running away from her village, and who now dedicates herself to help kids like our prota human beings. Complex to understand, but for now what you have to know is that protagonist was transformed into this form by Albina, who is part of a cult known as Rui Iconism that put this bug inside him, and that he is the spiritual base of Rui Iconism. realizes that he cannot return to his home until he learns to control his powers. His powers. He takes the stick out of his arm, releasing the ability that little by little begins to transform his body back into San's form. The form of San. At that moment they are attacked by a ship leaving the war zone. That, just like on the island, generates a monster. Monster, in this case a flying one that intends to kidnap Hirwat the Kayam. Kayam manages to save him by neutralizing his power at the same time that the Captain Engsu finishes off the monster. While all of this is happening, island authorities save the girl Albina but don't find out. Discover why she created a Chan. Although she dies from her injuries, what they do know is that the North is becoming more and more powerful with the implementation of humanoid monsters from the battle. So they decide to put that under the supervision of Kakeku, a commander of the Southern Army, so that begins his research and finds a way to face them with the help of a researcher called who involves the monsters known as the SD. Very similar to the Zans but completely mechanical and not so much mystical. The thing is that obviously they are not so enough to face the monsters from the North, so in secret they investigate a way to create their own monsters by taking as guinea pigs some of the orphans left behind from the last attack. Protagonist. He begins to relate better and better with the rest of the crew, and in Kayam believes that the time has come for him to get to know the tension that little by little he helps to better understand the Hiruko inside him, since it goes far beyond being a spirit or a deity, but a complete whole that from now on will live inside him, and that he has to learn to listen to it, or at least understand what he asks. Is there any way to remove the Hiroko? And this one answers him that this is something that can only be achieved by his new Sama, the spiritual leader of the Rui Econism, called hippies, who were exiled from most of their lands by the Empire of the North Empire, since they had and still have all the powers under their control, where they have spiritual power crystals, which are used as an energy source for the creation of humanoid monsters. Is said that a large part of the tissues were brought together again by a new leader, but that for years no one but his most loyal followers know about that. The location of the great shaman tries to tell me that from now on he must live with his laughingstock, but above all that he will have to learn to control it, and so between missions with Nakiame and work with messages and trainings, our Prota begins to have more control over his Chan, limiting the transformation to his arm, and this time he takes the opportunity to write a letter to his friend Raro and to his parents, informing them that he is well and that they can stop giving him as dead. Harold replies saying that she is his friend. Fruit had joined the army as part of the program. Ironically, his father also started to collaborate with them, because it turns out that when the war had started he worked as a doctor for the Northern Army during all those years, saving a lot of lives. A great number of lives, but at the same time his research was used to create humanoids, and now he feels a responsibility to work with South to help them find a solution. Weeks go by, and during an industry, one of the chances that was being investigated gets out of control. With the help of all of them, they manage to beat him, but this rare thing he talks about that he really felt when Broda was transformed for the first time. The difference is that unlike the humanoid monsters, this annoying consciousness dreams and a relentless desire to live that makes her want to meet with Proda to help him return to back to her old life, where he was leaving the island for one of his missions. He sent her a letter asking him to meet her in the rare background knows that the army has his doubts about the supposed fatal accident that Proda participated in during the explosion of the bus, so he needs to make sure to keep all of this as secret as possible. As secretly as possible, a few days pass, and Proda embarks to the rendezvous point, where they would be looking for a small deposit of energy crystals. Spiritual Raoul moves away from his group and meets Proda, although they run out of time to talk, because in the process they are attacked by a humanoid monster that they had found in the mine. Proda releases a part of his power and kills, but then comes the annoying Fruit, who instead of rejoicing seeing that his friend was still alive, he gets jealous, because he is a jealous bastard who only wanted to date Haru, and seeing that the protagonist, he finds the perfect excuse to try to kill him, but the fight is interrupted by an old traveler who turns out to be a very powerful ground. The protagonist flees, and on the way finds that he arrives just in time to help him to control it, avoiding that he Stone since one of the most important characteristics of Ts and humans is that stone when they die or lose control of their powers personal. This was the video. Subscribe to receive more. Thanks for watching.